My name is Ralph White, and I am an alcoholic.
And I'm Steve Lee, and I'm an alcoholic. And, you know, as everybody has said that this is kind of bittersweet, I will promise you that it is for me. I've had such a wonderful experience over these last, what I think is actually maybe 15 weeks that we've been together, something close to that, because we took 3 weeks on that fourth step. And you know, what started as a get together with a number of friendly faces that I recognized on the screen over this last 3 months has really turned into more of a group, and people that I feel like I've come to know in a personal way. And in the true sense of the 12th step, you guys have been of service to me during this time. So I really thank you for that. I got about 25 minutes here, and what I want to do, I don't know exactly what I'll say, but I hope what is communicated is the essence and the spiritual substance of the 12th step, because that's really what's been happening for me during all our time together. The committee and people behind the scenes that have put this on every week, Ali and Teresa and Mickey and everybody, that's the essence of the 12th step. And so it's just been a remarkable experience for me. You know, and doing it with Ralph, who I just love and admire and respect so much. And it's been fun for me to get for us to spend this time together. And so thank you for that. You know, when we arrive at this 12th step, you know, saying having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. You know, there's sort of a declaration and 2 calls to action in that 12th step, right? I arrive at the 12th step, and it says that I've had this spiritual awakening. And having had it, I am now to carry this message. What I'm tasked with, the call to action, is to carry this message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all my affairs. So it becomes kind of a question for me. Have I had a spiritual awakening? How do I know? What does it look like? You know, what does that feel like on me? And I will tell you that I'm going to try to give you 2 examples of kind of what it feels like to me. Number one, our 12 and 12 says that there may be as many different spiritual experiences as people who have them. Right now, we've got 212 people, now 214 on here. And there could be as many as 214 different descriptions of this spiritual experience. But the 12 and 12 says that all the genuine ones have 3 things in common. That I can do, feel, and believe that which I could not do, feel, and believe on my unaided will and resources alone. And I arrived here tonight being able to do, feel, and believe things that were unavailable to me before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. And then on certain days when I'm blocked off from that power or unavailable to me in a given day or in a given moment, I can feel things that I absolutely could not feel before I got here. My capacity for love, my capacity for empathy, my capacity in some ways for pain is enhanced greatly in my time in Alcoholics Anonymous through these steps. What does being spiritually awakened look like to me? You know, years ago, my wife and daughter, I don't remember whether I told this earlier in our series or not, but we went to see the movie Avatar, and it was a 3-dimensional. It was in 3D, and I had never done that for years since they had enhanced this technology. And when I put those 3D glasses on to watch that movie, I was captivated by this added dimension from a 2-dimensional experience to a 3-dimensional experience, where in addition to the height and and width, there was depth added with those 3D glasses. And when I put those glasses on, I had a different experience. I could see things I could not see without I would take the glasses off and it was the same movie and the same actors and the same dialogue and the same story was happening on that screen. And I could see it, but it was a little fuzzy, just like this screen is with my glasses on. When I put these glasses on, I see you differently than when I have these glasses off. Nothing has changed. You have not changed. My experience of you is different. My experience of that movie was different. In AA, you have introduced me through this spiritual experience to the fourth dimension. I live in a three-dimensional world that has now been changed into a four-dimensional world that adds the dimension of spirit to it. And when I am connected, I see things differently. I feel things differently. I believe in things that I could not believe in before. That's the experience I have. So the question becomes, next, well, then I carry this message to other alcoholics. Well, what's the message I've got to carry? The message I have to carry is that I've had a spiritual experience, and it was the result of these steps. And at my best, and I hope, I think I said this the very first night we got together, that is what I was attempting to do during these past weeks together, is I'm not an expert on the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not an expert on the book Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not a technician on the steps. What the message I have to share with you and that I have tried to do during these last weeks together is my experience with the steps, that I've had a spiritual awakening. It was a result of these steps. Let me tell you about my experience with the steps. Let me tell you what I did. Not the way to do it. Let me tell you what my experience was with it. And then Ralph has done that as well. And there were times during the course of these weeks together that he and I had a different approach to the steps, that we may have come at it from a slightly different angle, that something might have taken on an exaggerated importance to me that it did not to him, or vice versa. That didn't make anybody right or wrong. We shared our experience, how I was awakened through the process of these steps. And so that is sharing. We use that word so often in Alcoholics Anonymous. I did a reading a few weeks ago with some other friends of mine out of a different book. I may have brought this up recently on here. I can never remember what I've said and what I haven't, but also I'm not confused that you would remember anything I said. So it's certainly, I'm in no risk of saying it a second time. But that through one of the readings that we've talked about all great spiritual teachers, and the word teacher was in quotation marks because I don't view any of this as a teaching experience. But it said all great spiritual teachers have some things in common. One is they listen. And the other is that they tell stories and that they ask questions. Now, I've not been in as great a position to ask questions in this type of environment. You guys have provided the questions so wonderfully at the end of each session. But it says we don't preach. It's not about doctrine. We share stories. And I think that's what I have tried to do, and I think Ralph has done so wonderfully during these last weeks together. And that's what we do in AA. It's an oral history. So when I'm going to work with other alcoholics, when I'm going to help a new man or woman, when I'm going to carry the message, usually it becomes personal. It becomes telling a story. And that's what we do in AA is ultimately we share our stories with each other. We share the truth about ourselves and our experience with each other. And it talks about the fact that I get some kind of nice do's and don'ts in working with others, right? It says that having had the experience myself, that I am uniquely qualified to help other alcoholics. See, I am not unique. we spend a lot of time telling ourselves we're not unique. But as a recovered alcoholic, I am uniquely qualified. My qualifications are unique to the non-alcoholic. You know, and that's what Dr. Bob said about Bill W. when they had that visit together later. And as you read in Dr. Bob's story, he says, what you might ask was different about this man. Because Dr. Bob had seen psychiatrists, he had seen medical doctors, he had been prayed over by the Oxford groups, he had pursued a spiritual solution to his problem. And he said, what was different, you might ask, about this man? And ultimately it said he had had all the drunkard's experiences. In other words, he spoke to me in my language. He was the first man who had ever come to Dr. Bob who had had the experience himself. And Bill Wilson didn't go to Dr. Bob to save Dr. Bob. He went to Dr. Bob to save himself. He went to, but we must share this story. You know, Don Pritz had said that, I would like to say he said it often, I don't know. I heard him say, and I adopted this years ago, I often say it, that he said, I'm not confused, you need to hear what I have to say. But I've got an absolute need to say it. See, we don't, it's not that somebody needs to hear. We will burst if we don't share the good news. We got an absolute need to say it. And I'm so grateful to be given that opportunity to let some air out of the balloon. You know, this is the good news. And we share it with each other. What a wonderful privilege. What a wonderful experience that is to be able to share with one another. It says our only aim is to be helpful. Some people ask me about sponsorship, about working with others. I feel that's my least effective area. It feels like it's where I challenge myself the most. You always want to be given as good as you got. People have brought so much to me in Alcoholics Anonymous. And you wonder, am I being as available to this guy as I should be? Am I a sponsor of convenience for me? I'm always just like wrestling with that sometimes internally. But I don't have a style or a technique. The question for me is, my only aim is to be helpful. What's going to be helpful to this guy? I don't keep a file. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a case manager. I tell guys when we're talking, I said, we're going to be talking and I'm going to make a suggestion maybe out of this conversation. I'm not going to the file. It's just going to show up out of this conversation we're having. And don't get your feelings hurt, but Tuesday I won't remember what I suggested or who I suggested it to. I'm assuming that you're interested. I'm not checking your homework. I'm not, like I said, you know what I mean? I'm not micromanaging your life. I'm just another guy. Dude, I'm trying to get my arms around my life. And so we're just sharing this with each other. And I want to be helpful. How can I be helpful? And, it says we don't come down from any spiritual mountaintop. I will tell you, the more I read our chapter Working with Others, the kinder and gentler that chapter becomes, right? It says, if somebody doesn't want to quit drinking, we don't try to talk them into it. It doesn't mean we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It doesn't mean we don't care. It just means, man, there's plenty of people, if it's friends and family and people we love, we're all going to get caught up in that web sometimes. But as a basic AA member out there doing it, I'm not trying to talk somebody into stopping drinking. I'm saying, if you want to stop, can I help? I have people ask me all the time if I think they're alcoholic. And my answer is always, why do you ask? If you're alcoholic and your life is going just the way you want it to, don't let me screw it up. And for God's sake, don't go to any of our meetings. But if you're saying because we don't get sober because we're alcoholic, we get sober because of the consequences of our alcoholism. It becomes so painful, I want some relief. But if you're good with it, I'm good with it, dude. I'm on no crusade. My only aim is to be helpful. Our book says that if our man wants to try some other approach, we encourage him to follow his conscience. We don't go, oh, going, I got to tell you, when I was early in my sobriety and somebody decided to do something other than AA, I wished them drunk. I didn't do it out loud. I just didn't, I need you to make me feel better about my choice by failing at what you do. I got to tell you now, if somebody decides to do something other than AA, man, I wish them well. They're betting their life on it. And if somebody else has success in some other way, whether that's the church, whether that's therapy, whatever it is, whether it's yoga, whether it's running around the block naked, I don't care. Good for you, brother. Good for you, because you're betting your life on it. I've got my story. I know what works for me, and I love Alcoholics Anonymous. But we're not in the conversion business. We're not in the membership drive business in AA. We're into trying to help each other business in AA. So I want to change gears because I really want to talk about, all of us, the people on here, we're preaching to the choir, and people are active AA members. So many of us on here, and it's been so wonderful to have so many newer people too. But after all this stuff we've done, and we read through chapter 7, and maybe into 12 and 12, I'm reading through the first half of the 12 and 12, in step 12. And then it says, now for the biggest question yet. I go, dude, are you kidding me? We wait all this time. Now the biggest question yet? What about the practice of these principles in all our affairs? Whoa. Yeah, now we're taking the gloves off, Steve. The training wheels are off. How about the practice of these principles in all our affairs? Well, what do you mean principles? Look, I'm like you guys. We've all got that, you got a list of principles that you attach next to all the steps. And if you get 6 of those, you got 6 different versions of that. And none of them are wrong, because a spiritual principle will apply against any worldly problem. You ever walk into a meeting and as we all have, and either you hear somebody say, or we say ourselves that, oh man, you guys had this meeting just for me, because you ended up talking about just what I needed to hear you talking about. Well, the truth is, if you're having a real meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that's based on spiritual principles, whatever the hell you're talking about is going to apply to my worldly problem. I bring all my problems to AA, and you give me one solution. It is a spiritual solution that leads me to a connection with God that solves my problem. You don't give me money management. My sponsor told me don't ever take financial or relationship advice from somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous. And especially don't do it at a noon meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous when you run to that lunch meeting. He says, Jesus, half of them ought to be at work and the other half are out of work. It's a mess in there. So, so we're just all stumbling down the road trying to help each other. But what about practicing these principles? Well, a principle, we've got this designed for living. That's what we've said we're engaged in. So now I'm taking the principles are laid out in the beginning and the forward to the 12 and 12. When it says AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which if practiced as a way of life, will expel the obsession to drink. So we got there, and enable the sufferer to live a life that is happily and usefully whole. So for me, the principles are the 12 steps, and the 12 steps are the principles. And now I'm figuring out how to take this stuff we've been talking about for the last 15, 16 weeks and go put it into application at work, in my marriage, in my friendships, in how I handle money, in my relationship to all these things. And how do I wander into that? And what happens is I begin to, I went to my sponsor when I was about 6 months sober. And I said, Frank, I think practicing these principles in all my affairs is putting me at a competitive disadvantage in the workplace. And he said, Steve, only seemingly so. He said, I get it, buddy. And he said, if you're telling me that maybe you won't get a particular deal because you either won't turn a blind eye or shave a corner off something or entertain in a particular way, he said, absolutely. Anecdotally, you will lose things. But he says, we're playing the long game in AA. And he said, you don't have any idea the number of people who have quietly chosen not to do business with you. And he says, it might not even be about your drinking, just the vibe you're putting off, just who you are is not attractive to them. And he says, I promise you, if you will practice these principles, not when they're convenient, not conditionally, but unconditionally. He said, I'm not promising you success monetarily, but I am promising you a life that's happily and usefully whole. I'm promising you that you will sleep 8 hours a night. I promise you that you can look in the mirror and shave in the morning without hating the guy that's in there. I promise you, you can look your wife and daughter in the eye and be the man that they hope you are. And you can quit being an actor and be authentically who you are in this deal. And you know, I'm about a C student at that. I'm about 70%, and that's a hell of an improvement for a guy like me. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, y'all just can't tell how good I'm doing because you didn't get to see how bad I was. But, you know, this is a huge improvement. I wish the before picture was here. But, and we get caught up, or I do, in see, these principles are not conditional. The 12 steps always point spiritual true north. You know, when you got a compass and you're standing up on the mountaintop or you're down in the valley, it still points north, regardless of the topography. If you're in a rainforest or in the desert, north is still north. So whether I got a wife problem or a kid problem or a money problem or a living life problem, anything, the principle doesn't change. If I got a $5 problem or a $5,000 problem or a $50,000 problem, the principle doesn't change. And I've got to be careful that I don't compromise my principles based on fear and based on circumstances. You know, I've been in sales most of my life, but you get quotas. You know, I'm in a business now that's a helping people business. But have you ever had end of the month principles, right? Have you ever had the bosses on my ass principles? Have you ever had the bills are due principles, you know? And the truth is, sure, we've all caved from time to time. And I'm just saying that and thank goodness we're told early on that we're going to come nowhere near perfect adherence to these principles. But am I and are we willing to continue to grow along spiritual lines? Am I right now tonight going and continue to be willing to grow along spiritual lines? I hope so. You guys help me. You know, it's by coming here and talking to you guys every now and then, I say something even I need to hear. And I go, oh, shit, I should try that. That might be a good plan. And so you make me better by giving me that chance to expose myself in the most positive way in sharing with you. And that's what we do. That truth that we share with ourselves, that story that we bring is about finally getting rid of the things that are blocking me off from you, that are blocking me off from me, that allow me just to be who I am. You know, when I was 15 years sober, my brother and I had bought we were in business together, and we bought a little building, and we were going to move our business into that building. And we were buying furniture and office equipment for the building and for our business. And we said this would be a good time to buy some things for our homes and bill it through the business and get the tax benefits that come with that. I mean, I was only 15 years sober. I wasn't even conflicted by this. And I called my sponsor. heck, I wasn't calling to ask him about this. I was just talking about what we were doing. I forgot his position in my life for a minute. And he said, well, you know, Steve, he said, I don't think I would do that. And that's the way my sponsors have always done. He wasn't telling me not to. He said, I don't think I'd be doing that. And I said, well, I said, I know it sounds a little bit like tax fraud. And he went, no, Steve, he said, it actually is tax fraud. It doesn't sound like tax fraud. It's fraudulent. He said, now look, kid, he said, we're not going to kick you out of the club. He said, I still love you. He said, no problem. You do what you're going to do. And he says, because we don't quit making mistakes in AA, but we stand in front of the mistakes we make. He says, I just want you to make your decisions based on the truth, not some fuzzy version of the truth you give yourself. And in that time, I didn't do it. I think can we practice these principles and in our relationships, in our work? Can I go out and just be, our book says that you could tell this man was attractive because of the way that he conducted himself. When someone I don't know is looking at me, and I don't mean I'm trying to give a false impression, what do I look like? What does my life look like to somebody else on the outside looking in? I had somebody call me today, not somebody in recovery, someone work related. And and she said, you know, Steve, I just respect you and trust you. Can I run something by you? And you know, and I'm not confused about that, but what a wonderful privilege that is, that from a distance, that's the opinion she held. As she gets closer, she might not continue to hold that opinion, but anyway, it just that was humbling. That wasn't pride inducing, it was humbling. You know, when we get through this whole thing and finally, you know, our book says, the 12 and 12 says that it gives this whole long run-on sentence that I won't read. It's the longest sentence in Alcoholics Anonymous, but it ends with saying, these are the permanent and legitimate satisfactions of right living. See, we land here, and now I am beginning, and I'm sure you guys are beginning to experience the permanent and legitimate satisfactions of right living instead of election plate too. But I hate that you missed that. I was speaking in tongues for a minute there. That's probably why you couldn't hear me. Anyway, what it says at the very end, and here's the end game for me, it says true ambition isn't what we thought it was. And I can tell you that true ambition isn't what I thought it was. True ambition is a sincere desire to live usefully and walk humbly under the grace of God. On my best days, that's where I land here in AA. So thanks so much. Ralph, take us home, brother.
Thank you, Stephen. I so appreciate these weeks we've spent together. I believe it was 12, because even though we spent 3 on inventory, we combined 6 and 7, and we combined 8 and 9. But wow. You know, I'm always the one that you'll find. I don't like to go home from the party. You know, I'm an alcoholic. I never left with dope on the table. You know, I just, that's, oh my God. My youngest daughter just walked. This 12th step, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. And Steve covered so much, and he brought some stuff to my mind. A guy asked me, I spoke at a meeting yesterday, and there was a guy on there with 8 months. And most of the people on there have varying levels of sobriety. And this was one of the meetings where I guess I was the oldest person there. And this guy said, I understand why it is I signed up for this. He was sharing at the end of the meeting. He said, I know why I signed up. I know why I'm enthusiastic or I'm optimistic about this. I know why I'm going to meeting so diligently. And he's only known Zoom. He doesn't know us personally. He says, because it's still fresh. It's fresh on me. I'm scared. He said, but I'm listening to you and I just don't understand, why is it you do what you do 34 years in? And it puts me in mind of what we're talking about today. Why is it you doing what you do 34 years in? Because early on, when I got to you guys at 33 years old, the biggest, I like to say, uh, the biggest part of the fuel in my propellant was desperation, fear and desperation. I haven't been driven by fear and desperation in a long, long time. I haven't been driven by that fresh memory of what it was like in a long time. Funny, Steve mentioned Don P. Many years ago, I was talking somewhere and I told Don, I said, Don, when I'm sharing, it feels like a story I'm telling. I know it's my story, but I don't always feel it. I'm sharing it. I've shared it a lot, so I have a narrative I'm kind of wed to, but I have a memory, but I don't feel. He said, Ralph, that's because you are sharing about somebody else. You are. He talks about we've been reborn. That guy is dead. Now he can be resurrected, but it's about somebody else. And so and then when Steve talked about uh, what it is we really get and what it is we really do, haven't had a spiritual awakening. So when you come from that living dead, when you come from that place of no hope, when you come from places we come from, dark places, lonely places, hurting places, broken places, and we come in here and friendly hands stretch out and we start putting pieces back together. And slowly but surely, you get on your knees with some people and you ask for this grace. You ask for it to continue. You ask for it to enter your life. You get an invitation. And then you guys say, okay, if this is what you want, this is what we do. We start wiping the window and you start telling on yourself. And you start living different than you were living. And after you look at some truth about the way you used to look at things, and now you see it from an entirely different angle. And so now this power you invited in, you go to this power again. Okay, you got to do something with me because I can't do nothing with me. I'm a mess and I know it. I've been trying. I can't do nothing with me. And then you stand up in front of some people and you go eye to eye, knee to knee, and say, look at me now. I'm cleaning up my mess. Then you come out of that experience, and as you while you're in that experience, you start living different. Steve calls it standing up in front of my mistakes. Start living different, walking with your head up, And then all of a sudden, you can look at yourself in the mirror. I hadn't looked at myself full face in the mirror for about 2 years when I came to you guys. Don't know when everything changed. That not only can you start just glimpsing you can look. And here's the thing. Somebody in here is new. I know you don't believe it, but I'm going to promise you. There's a time if you do what we do and you come all the way in and sit all the way down and do what it is we do wholeheartedly. There's a time you're going to be able to look in the mirror and look, not flinch. I know you don't believe that's possible where you stand right now. You're going to be able to look. And then here's the next part. You're going to even be able to like who you see. And that's big. And when that happens, when that part right there happens, you got to tell somebody. That's our 12th step. You're going to have to. You're going to have to. You're going to have to. We were talking in our workshop one time, and we were talking about doing inventory. And it said next we launched on a course of vigorous action. And one of the members said when they think about launching, they think about a rocket. And when you think about a rocket, what is it that's under a rocket when it launches? It's a lot of fire. And so the best way to do inventory is when you still have that fire up under that ass from what happened out there, right? And so then you get rocketed. And what are the other metaphors we use when we talk about rocketing? Then you get rocketed into what Steve was talking about, that fourth dimension. And so you rocketed in this fourth dimension and you see stuff different. The world looks different. Life looks different. People look different, and then you're tempted. I heard somebody say a long time ago out here in LA, we want to start a meeting on 10, 11, and 12. And all we want to hear from, wouldn't it be great if the only people who came to that meeting were people who were actively living in 10, 11, and 12? And they said, that way we'd eliminate the riffraff. I remember at the time, my sister-in-law said, we are the riffraff. That sounds suspiciously to me like being in a hospital with nothing but doctors, because it's cool to just sit around and academically get. Ali and Teresa have an 11-step meeting. And it's not limited to people who are only living in step 11. It is inspiring. It is encouraging. It is enlightening. It's all that. But when it talked about that, because truly, when you really been rocketed into a fourth dimension, and we were talking, don't you want to just stay in orbit? Don't you want to just stay above the problem? Don't you want to stay above the fray? Why would you do that? Because you got to tell somebody. You got to tell somebody. When you see stars, you got to tell somebody. You got to say, Jeff, this is what it looked like up here. I know what it looked like to you right now. I know you got 30 days and they telling you got to clap every time you walk through a room in the house. I know it looked like your daughter is mad at you and said, I don't never want to see you. I know it looks like your old lady is like, dude, get up out of here and don't come on my butt. I know what it looks like. Your mama and your dad. I know what it looks like. Oh, but let me share the view from here. Let me share the view from here. And so that 12th step it's as I was listening to Steve, I thought about what the guy asked me. Why all these many years later are you still there? And you know what? Being grown every day, hard, difficult for a guy like me. Standing in front of problems, standing in your life for real, being grown and answering and measuring, disappointing people, letting people down, letting people see you just like you are, living transparently and living authentically when you're a guy like me that always feel like if I make a mistake, they're going to hold it against me for life. If you really know me, you ain't going to like me. And this notion of what it is that we have, what we have when you walk. See, that notion of having had a spiritual awakening, spirit awake. I'm awakened to something that's different. What is it that I'm awakened to? My assignment, living in my life, to this power that I need more now than I did before. I have stuff. I've been restored to a certain station. I can let my stuff get in the way of my relationship. I'll tell you something. You guys heard me say it. I'm going to say it again. Don't let the life AA gave you get in the way of your AA life. And I have a good one. And so this awakened spirit. So now what do I do with an awakened spirit? Put it in service. Bill Wilson in the chapter Working with Others, the first line in there says practical experience shows nothing so much ensures immunity from drinking as work with another alcoholic. This is our 12th suggestion. It works when everything else fails. What a minute. You mean it works when inventory? You can write if you want to. Sharing, you can share if you want to. Praying, please pray. It's not saying all these things don't work, but when all those other things don't, when you can't shut your head off, when uh, when it feels like you getting a raw deal, when it feels like, damn, why am I even still trying? Uh, when all else fails, what do? We grab one. We grab one. It's the most powerful thing we have. It's our foundational principle. One drunk sharing with another. Steve shared about the third part, but that second part and carried the message. I had a privilege. Two of my brothers are on here right now. I saw Ronnie on here. I saw the top of Reggie's head. For all y'all know, when you look at him, he's always got, I saw his head, so I believe he's on here paying attention. But Ronnie and Reggie, and then my brother Rod, Ronnie got sober in July of 1986. And I got sober in October of 86. Reggie originally got sober in February 87, and Rod got sober in December of 87 on Christmas Day. Then Reggie went out on a long, long foray, and Reggie's back and on fire, but there's still about this 12 step. So I got real close experience with some of the do's and don'ts that it talks about there. I'm one that feels exceedingly blessed, not only to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, but for what this fellowship has given me and my family. None of us ever, to this day, have ever stepped to each other about coming into the rooms, staying in the rooms. We talk all the time, gossip about you guys. Anybody that say they don't gossip, I don't know. I ain't met a human being that don't. I try to limit the people I talk to. We call it just having conversation. We gossip about folks. We talk about this deal. We marvel at this deal. My brothers are back. The white boys were tight when we were young, really tight. And then we went into life. And we didn't get into life early. We get into life late. Me and Ronnie Reggie were college boys. And that's when we all started getting together and hooking up like that. And really strong influences on each other. So my baby brothers got caught up with us and my older brother. 6 of us. Talk about one tornado. Look at your own experience. One tornado times 6. That's what my mama had. So when you hear Ralph White talk about this awakening and carrying this message, you goddamn right. I can't repay Alcoholics Anonymous. And the thing that we get to get, you guys, because it's days when I'm not going to feel, it's days I'm not going to feel smart. It's people on here right now that know I ain't that smart. It's days I ain't going to feel the spiritual Steve. I can't never measure up like that. I can't be as spiritual as Ali sound like he is. I can't be spiritual. I'm like that myself now. Me and T go somewhere. I can't be spiritual like Teresa. I listen to Steve during this series. I can't do it like that. I'm not that bright. I'm not that articulate. I don't have stories like that. So it'll be days for everybody. You guys, I ain't as bright as those two guys. I ain't as articulate as those two guys. I ain't as deep as those two guys. I ain't as insightful as those two guys. I haven't read the book like those two guys. It's going to be days. I don't feel that optimistic. I don't feel like I'm armed with enough. It'll be days I don't feel worthy and I don't feel worthwhile. But I'm going to share something with you. Haven't had a spiritual awakening. It'll never be days when I'm not useful. When I'm not useful. One thing I've had in my 34 years, I haven't lost. I lost all my money. I lost my house. Came close to losing hope. Franklin Williams, this old guy that I never met, he said, I can run out of money, I can run out of friends, I can even run out of hope, but I can't run out of God. You know, and the one thing that I have not felt since I wrapped my hands around this process, the one thing I haven't lost is I've had purpose. I've had usefulness. You guys have done for me what I couldn't do for myself. You know, let me share this piece with you, and then because I didn't know where I was going with this, because there's so many ways you can go, but I'm gonna share something with you, and it's powerful. It's glue. It's cement. I always say this is how you can rewire your spiritual, you can remap your spiritual DNA. Sponsorship, being sponsored and sponsoring. My sponsor is Bob B out of St. Paul, Minnesota. He's my second sponsor. He's been with me, gosh, I guess since me and Bob got together when I was 17 or 18. So now, we've been together a while. And sponsoring. Why am I sponsored 34 years sober, all these many years later? That's also working with others. I'm sponsored because I don't grade my own paper and I don't read my own press clippings. And I need somebody I'm accountable to. And even though last week we talked about in the 11th step, being guided by this intuition and this intuitive thought, when God speaks to me suspiciously, he sounds just like this. His voice sounds like mine. So I need a filter. I need a filter. That's why all these many years. But here's how you can remap your own spiritual DNA. Everybody here, and this is the beauty of carrying the message and practicing principles, because being a principle practicer is the best way to carry the message. What you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you say. Most people's sponsorship ain't based so much on word anyway. So there's some people on here that's scared of sponsoring. There's some people on here that's, oh my God, but you were probably scared of having a baby too. If you get pregnant, get ready. You got a baby coming. Don't matter whether you're ready or not. That's like people that be like, I'm not ready to say. If somebody asks you, get ready. And just like having a baby, it's hard to kill them. It's hard to kill them. Don't worry about sponsoring. It's hard. You make some mistakes in the. You know what makes a good sponsor? A willing sponsor. Sponsees will teach you more than sponsor. That's where it is. And here's the other thing I've learned, you guys, in this business of sponsorship, under the umbrella of carrying, because that's the most powerful place that message is consistently. For me, I'm just going to share that one particular area right now because we only got but a couple of minutes. But that area right there is consistent, and the thing about being worried about that is because I think I misread the relationship. I think what's going on is a duet. I think it's a dialogue, and it's really a trio. Sponsorship ain't never two people, and most of the time we think it is. You guys have heard me say this all the time. How is it when you're sponsoring that you hear something come out of your mouth that you didn't know you knew until it came out your mouth? Who put it in there? And it won't come out by yourself. Trust me. There's a strange alchemy that takes place when it's me and you, one sharing with another sincerely on a spiritual basis. God is in there. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He'll sound like a background singer because he'll let you think you the one that's, that you the one that's singing a solo or that you two are in a duet. No. And it's been my saving grace. It's been my saving grace. Because you can have your own spiritual experiences. This business of working with others is so powerful. That guy asked me, Ralph, what is it? Because I don't reignite myself. You're right. I've been doing this a long time. But I get to sit down on Sunday mornings. I met some people since I've been doing this Zoom thing. I'm looking at Rodney right now. You ignite me. When I came on the meeting tonight, and Suzanne, who I hadn't met before Zoom, and she just acts like we've been knowing each other, you ignite me. When I see Ellen Cassidy, who I have the utmost respect for, and I see Wes Bickford when I get up here, you fire me. And when the new people come, you know, I was talking about the guy that had 8 months on that meeting. I got a call this morning. I talked on that meeting last night, and the guy said, can you stay after the 8-month guy? Why are you still here? I thought that was such a powerful question. And then this morning, this guy named Robert, he was the newcomer at that meeting. He didn't turn his camera on and he didn't share. And he called me. He said, I wanted to share so bad after you shared, but I was scared. But I was scared. But I just wanted to call you and tell you, you gave me one. And that everybody here, we get to participate in that. You know, me and Steve, we the faces tonight. We composites. We not originals. We the product of somebody working with others, downstream and upstream. You know, we repeat what people say to us. If it sounds good, and both of us are good at repackaging. And so we put it a little nicer than maybe, but we ain't originals. We ain't that smart. You know, I'm not being falsely modest. Both of us are good communicators. We can talk. Don't make us no better at living spiritual principles, man. You know what I'm saying? We just able to talk about it. And one of the things that we have, that everybody in here has, is the ability. You know what makes us useful? Experience. Everybody in here is going to get experience. And we get the most useful from the experiences that seem to hurt us the most when we in them. When we in them. That's what makes us useful. That's what makes us valuable. That's what gives us a sense of purpose. That's what lets people like us, coming from places we come from, juvenile, scared. I don't care who it is. If you're in these rooms, there are some things I will go on a limb and I'll do some generalizations. When I was new, I used to say, wow, a woman that looks like that, she's so put together. She is so, it ain't no way. And then stick around here, every single one of us in here, I'm going to make a generalization. Self-esteem stuff. Everybody up in here got some self-esteem stuff going on. You look at them and say, oh, he put together. Oh, he confident. Oh, yeah. Fear, 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 fear. Bondage yourself. All that. Oh, but we got a way out. We got 12 steps and it'll wake you. I don't care. That's the guarantee. When you come up in here and you sign up for this club and you say, I want to be a part of this organization, we can't tell you whether you're going to get the girl. We can't tell you whether you're going to get the guy. We can't tell you whether you're going to have a happy marriage. We can't tell you whether you're going to have a hell of a career. We can't tell you the make and model of the car you're going to drive. We can guarantee you if you come all the way in, sit all the way down, do what we do, and pick up this simple kit of spiritual tools, you'll have a spirit that's woke up. And when you get that spirit that's woke up, you're going to tell somebody. And when you keep telling somebody, they're going to keep waking you back up. That's what we do. That's what we have. Can nobody take that? Bad days, sick days, scared days, tired days, broke days. Sense of purpose. That's powerful. That's our promise. We walk as grown men and grown women in front of what it is that life presents. That's what we get. That's what we do. That's what we have. I get so sad when the party's ending. I still get sad. You know, and it has been quite the journey these past months to be with one of my favorite guys and one of the people I really respect the most. He's tied with all the rest of you guys. It's just a tie. I would love to have sat here with any and everybody because, like I say, we ain't that deep. It don't take deep. It really don't. It don't take insightful. We kind of have some insights, you know, but it ain't a requirement, man. Not to have your kids look at you with respect. Don't trip off what's going on up in here. You know what I'm saying? It's people up in here taking care of their mama and daddy. It's people up in here going to the PTA meetings. It's people up in here going to the kids' games and football games. It's people up in here that's going to work, writing page. It's so what we doing is cool. In fact, it is extremely fulfilling. But it ain't. Yeah, we special. We ain't specialer. You special too, and you ain't specialer. When people say we ain't special, no, we ain't unique, but you special. You're special. I listen. I got him. Didn't mean to go this far. I'm gonna say this 1 minute. I hear people talk about grace is unmerited, and I don't deserve it. But I'm a daddy. I'm a dad. That one was sitting over on my couch right now that gave me, and she's 26 right now. And when she was a baby and growing up, it's not a question of deserving, not a question of merit. See, we think in people terms. We think in people terms. We think everything is about merit. And I think in God's plan, goddamn right, it ain't, that's the wrong way to look at it. Unmerited. I'm his kid. Of course it's merited. I don't have to merit it. Don't have to deserve it. It's what I do. You don't have to deserve it. It's what I do. It's what I do. And it ain't nothing she can do about that. And I think it's the same way with grace. It's what he do. And it ain't nothing we can do about that except block it. But it's what he do. God don't do but one thing. He just keep God. He just keeps shooting the grace. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'm rambling now. You guys, it has been a remarkable, remarkable time. Ali, I thank you so much for having the idea. Steve, thank you for the privilege. Thank you for the opportunity. And all you guys, thank you. Thank you. I don't trust you when you tell us how much you like us, because y'all say that to everybody in AA. That's what we say. You don't never say you suck, you except to each other you say it. So I don't really trust it, but I'll take it anyway. Let's do some questions and answers. Thank you, guys.
Vivek, come on up, brother.
Thank you, Ali. Vivek, alcoholic. Thank you very much. I don't have a question. I just want to have a quick comment. Thank you very much, Stephen and Ralph. Oh my goodness. Being in my early sobriety, it was an honor and a privilege to be part of this journey. And I just can't say enough of what I've learned from both of you. I just can't thank you enough for just being there and just showing me a way to get to my journey and day by day, moment by moment, I will continue. But again, thank you very much for myself. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Vivek. And please, Ralph and Steve, if you feel free to comment on the comments anytime. Vivek just had 5 months, 2 days ago. Good to have you here, my brother. Sandy, come on up. Come on up, Sandy.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my God, you guys were off the chain this whole time. Like I have glued to my computer every Wednesday night after my home group, I jump on over. I absolutely have been in love with this series. Can't even thank you enough. Oh my God, it's just like powerful, straight from your heart to mine. And both you guys are just excellent communicators. I do love you, and so you better believe it. Please believe it. Okay. I wanted to ask you guys, have you ever gotten through the steps with a sponsee and they just haven't had really that awakening, that aha, that they still really are struggling with that? Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly have. And unlike Ralph, I've had plenty of people tell me I suck too, but yes, Sandy, I mean, I think and I don't necessarily take that personally or as if there was necessarily a failure on my part. I think there are times when the book says that those folks who they only thought they'd humbled themselves, they only thought that they had, taken inventory and done those things. And I believe some people, there are times that it just doesn't land there yet with somebody. And so I've certainly had where we did 1 through 12, at least put the numbers down, but I'm not sure the experience happened.
And I want to add a little to that too, Sandy. And I think for me, the dangerous part of that is thinking I know what it looks like on me and on somebody else. I have members, in fact, people that go out and talk all the time, and they talk about us here for 8 years. I have friends, and seemed like I was done on the vine. Something happened. I was 60 years in. I got reinvented. I think that's part of the journey. I think it's part of the journey. And what I do is get in the business of grading papers. And I don't know that I'm capable of doing that. I don't know how God is operating, and I don't know how it looks. And so my measuring stick is really unreliable, even with me. Because when I measure with me, I measure what it feels like. And a lot of people on here probably feel like I haven't had what it looks like Steve has had. I feel like I haven't. And this ain't a feel better program, it's a get better program. And sometimes it's in that I'm finally getting to the point where I'm gonna have a true 6 and 7. You know what I mean? Maybe that's part of the process. And so I get me, because I am the judging guy and the rest, I try to not judge God's handiwork and figure, God, do what you do.
Thank you, Sandy, for your question and comments. Sherry, come on up.
Hey guys, Sherry Alcoholic. Thank you guys so much for these beautiful weeks. Just such a gift. Steve, I thank you so much. I love you so much. You've always been one of my favorite people, and I hope as we open up here, I get to see you in person again soon. And Ralph, thank you so much. And I just love the way you lit up when your daughter walked in the room. I just love that, because I actually felt that feeling when I walked into a room of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I just really saw that. So thank you for that moment. When I came here 19 years ago, I had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but I could not live up to them. And then you guys taught me about spiritual principles, and I honestly came here not knowing that verbiage, not knowing what a spiritual principle was. And now for me, I think my most favorite spiritual principle is integrity. It kind of embodies everything in our lives. And I just wonder if you could speak a little bit more about particular spiritual principles in the event that there is someone new here. I know we say we have principles and steps, or something that's favorite or something that you've struggled with, but just speak a little bit more about spiritual principles. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Sherry. And I hope we get to see each other soon too. And, over the last few years, the two focuses that I think, to answer your question, and at least what consciously comes to mind, is in the 12 and 12, where it says that kindness, courtesy, justice, and love are the keynotes by which we can come into harmony with almost anyone. And so I have a conscious awareness of trying to bring that into my day. And my sponsor, Don M. from Louisville, Don courtesy has become a principle that he has really focused on. And through our conversations around courtesy, that never do anything but help connect you with other people. So those have been particularly important to me most recently.
And I like what you said, Sherry, integrity. That one is taken on extreme importance. um, integrity in all dealings. And I like when I think Steve talked about, workplace, home, you know, integrity, uh, humility, which is the one we talk about in AA all the time, but it is taken on different dimensions. It takes on different dimensions when you're on the way up, seemingly, you come from nothing, you start acquiring, so it's easy. But then you get to a station and you think and humility is something to be sought actively, because I'm a guy who can wear it and not necessarily embrace it. I know how to do it for public consumption and not really feel it's something to so those uh, and persistence. There's a part in the bit, it talks about in one of our parts in our reading, it says if we persist. Also, it's a remarkable thing. People like us and God, when it gets hard, I want to quit. When it gets difficult, I want to quit. When it gets painful, I want to quit. Uh, I've been doing this with you guys. I haven't quit this, but uh, that principle of persistence in affairs, that's a big one too. So among a number of others, but yeah, thank you for that question.
Thank you, Sherry, for a great question. Muke, come on up, please.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Ralph. My question is with regards to what I call the old-timers filibuster. I call it a filibuster because they have been sober for many years, some of them 42 years, and it's all out. It's not to criticize them, but there's a refusal to accept the book the way it is written, to follow it the way it is, and they will rather. I'll give you just one of the examples. Just focus on staying sober. Forget about the steps now. So that's one of the things you hear, and they sit on that royal chair, so that you cannot say anything to contradict them, because you might get the entire community to come after you. So I need some guidance on how do you circumvent those type of situations where that the message is not that of the book. It's the I will call it the on recovery. So how do you you go about that? Thank you.
Ralph, you're the diplomat between the two of us.
Well, Muke, obviously when when I'm young, of course I say it's quality sobriety. It's not quantity anyway, because of course I don't have quantity. So I gotta hang my hat on what I have. One of the things though, when I say it's not in the book, for me, Muke, because I came in young gun, judging and the rest of that. What happened for me is I don't care what it is. They kept the light on for me, and they kept the door open for me. And if I claim that I'm the one reading the book and they don't know the book, I believe there's something in the book that says we cease fighting anything and anyone, even old timers who don't know the book. I think there's another part in the book that says we sense real tolerance of others and their shortcomings, or things that make us useful to others. I believe that a scholar of the book like you knows that. I also believe that there's a part in the book that says love and tolerance is our code. So Muke, if I take all those in, I really don't have to worry about what it is they say or what it is they do. I just do what I do. But that's just me. Steve.
Well, and I think you hit it there, Ralph. That's, I've been through every stage, and I may be through a couple more before it's done. And at about 4 years sober, I was the only one that I wasn't the only one that read the big book, but I was the only one that really understood what it meant. And so I shared with other people their misunderstanding. And I complained to my sponsor one day about what I felt was a shortcoming in some particular meetings and with some particular people. And he said, Steve, there are thousands of AA meetings going on every day without your input that seem to be doing okay. And he said, every now and then, why don't you go to a meeting and pretend you're not there? But the flip side of that is what it is, and I really think it's part of what you're asking and what Ralph talked about. I also want to be able to stand up in front of my experience, and I don't have to challenge anybody else's. And that's why our book says that if you're an alcoholic that wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? And it says that's what this book is about, and we will tell you what we have done. So as long as I'm sticking to my experience, I don't have to tell somebody else they're wrong. I just get to talk about, this is what worked for me. This is what I do. This is the results I'm getting. If you're interested, let's talk about it. And I find that tends to be more attractive. That elder statesman versus bleeding deacon seems to be more attractive. Though I am guilty of starting a sentence as an elder statesman and ending it as a bleeding deacon sometimes. So it just happens when when I'm not paying attention.
Thank you, Muke, for a great question. Wes, come on up, brother.
I'm an alcoholic. My name is Wes. I want to tell you just before I ask a question, you've done it again. Both Steve and Ralph, you have unboxed the emotions, and now I got to get them back into the box so I can go to sleep. You have revved me up because you are doing the deal, and I know it, and I love to hang out with people who do the deal. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. There's a lot of people that aren't going to get on here tonight, but I know they want to send their thanks to. Love you both. Allie and all the gang that put it together. I know the hard work that's behind it, and I do appreciate it. And so how am I going to put all these emotions back in the box and go to sleep in an hour? I guess I'll stay up late and read the book. Thank you. God bless and good night.
Wes, thank you for being with us. And, Ralph mentioned it, but I can't, many of you I didn't know before we started doing this, but there are a number of people I do know, and people that have been sober a long time and go to tons of AA meetings, no more AA than I'll ever know, could do this better than I've done it, and have sat here and listened with us for these 12 weeks. And it's just humbling that some of our friends would hang in here and just hear again times, and a lot.
Thank you, Wes. Love you, brother. I need to share this. When Ralph was talking about, I think Steve also talked about, walking the walk and how it speaks louder than the talk. Wes is 40 plus years sober. The man is in his 80s. He's just as enthusiastic about AA as any of us younger guys, man. I'm telling you, he comes to these deals and he just brings his spirit and kindness and generosity. He just wants to be filled. And he's telling me last week on the phone, I got a bunch of big books. I'll deliver them to anywhere in Toronto. You let me know. I was like, okay, Wes. You inspire me, brother. Thank you so much for walking the walk and being here. That's awesome, man. Thank you. All right. Yuna, come on up, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yuna, and I am an alcoholic. And thank you so much, Ralph and Steve and Ali and the Fellowship of the Spirit. I absolutely, I just want to thank you. My last drink was January 20th, 1993. And last year I realized that I was suffering from untreated alcoholism. God led me to Ali and led me to the Fellowship of the Spirit. And it's been hard, and I want to thank you for helping me not quit. And I have a different connection with my God as I understand God. And I'm seeking God on a regular basis, thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous and you people. And Ralph, you made a comment, and I got the first part and the last part, and I want the middle part because I just thought it was profound. You said I can run out of money. I didn't hear the middle part, but I heard you say, but I can't run out of God. And I'd just like for you to repeat that for me. Love you.
Thank you. And it's not original. I heard an old guy named Franklin Williams, and I probably added my own flavor. I can run out of money. I can run out of friends. I can even run out of hope. Can't run out of God.
To be of service and to show up. I was thinking about step 12, the willingness to go to any length to carry this message. I tell you, sometimes every part of me is like, is there anybody who's new? I am so tired. Sometimes I come in here so delirious. I'm up early in the morning in class and taking care of mom, and I have had that feeling even when I was new. Like the last thing I want to do is go to this meeting, but my feet are trained, right? I do it anyway. And then at the end, I'm just so grateful that I did it. So it just allows me to stay sober another day. So every week on Wednesday, as much as I've done it with the camera off, in the bed, popping in and out, there's something about commitments and having to show up no matter what that makes a huge difference. And that somehow resonates in other areas of my life. You know, I've heard many people say that, and that's been my experience. I call AA the university, you know, this is the university. And then I go out into the world and I implement the same things you taught me, and it seems to work in all my affairs. So thank you guys so much. Ralph and Steve, no more Larry. Now at the end, I'm not calling you Larry anymore. I don't know where I got that from. You don't even look like a Larry. I don't even think you're another Larry. I just wanted to rename you for some reason. For Ralph and Steve, for making a difference, at least in my life. Thank you all for being here and showing up. It has meant a lot to me. Thank Ali so much for all the ideas. He does. He gets a lot of ideas and he calls me. And I'm like, let's do it. We're like road dogs, boy, trudging this thing. So thank you for contributing to my recovery. I so appreciate it. All right. Here we